Tell your friends! Tell your friends about Hooks and Ladders, but also about songstudio.ca. You can get all kinds of information about songwriting, tips, and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, like, follow, and subscribe. That's what we need. That's what you need.
Hey, welcome to Hooks and Ladders. What you're about to see is part of what we did at the SongStudio workshop in Toronto in July 2022. There'll be lots more to see. We're just going to roll it out a little bit at a time. So sit back and enjoy. And if you want to know more about SongStudio, visit www.songstudio.ca and check us out. Enjoy.
I'd never heard your previous band's songs, but I would imagine that to a degree, some of them were polemics and they were finger waggling, I can imagine. Sort of like, we have to change this, you have to do that, and so
Both
forth.
Both fingers, Blair.
Both fingers for double power. And the sentiments in the song, I would probably agree with all of them, but would I be drawn in? Probably not, because the personal element is missing. The more individual you make something, the more idiosyncratically you make it, the more it can reach other people. It's the weirdest thing. Carl Jung observed this, and I take all my songwriting lessons from Carl Jung. But
He's
it's
my favorite songwriter.
It's a really interesting phenomenon. It really is true. You can write about that tape dispenser, and if I describe it just so, it's going to draw people in and make people cry if you're a great songwriter, So I think that's really interesting, because Lowest of the Low, I don't know if you guys are aware, but it took off big time for an indie band. For any band, it took off big time. And so Ron, at this point, I just heard this story, by the way. I've heard this story from you and from Stephen, but every time I hear it, I'm always like, holy shit. So the moment we're at in this story is when the Lowest of the Low is starting to get some traction from the music they were writing. Now that is satisfaction. It's from the music you're writing. It's not the clothes you're wearing. It's not the hype from the record label, because there is no record label. And it's starting to happen. And that's a fantastic part of the story, if you would take it away.
Yeah, it definitely was not the clothes we were wearing. And so that started to take off. And again, once again, it's funny because that band has become known as, like, if the Now magazine would write about us, it would be like indie freedom fighters, or, local heroes, like, art gorillas, like it would be like, they would always talk about as if we were just adamant from the get-go that we weren't going to be part of the Canadian music industry. And it was like, nothing could be further from the truth. The beginning of Lowest Low, we tried to get all of our songs, again, back to these same record companies, who again were like, we wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole, and they sent us off. But luckily for us, we were also young in a period of time where CDs had been around, but they were not really available to like an indie band making their own CDs. We were still in the kind of cassette world and that kind of underground fanzine thing I was talking about. So we just happened to be existing in that moment where it was like, suddenly it's like, well, maybe we should put it out ourselves. Maybe we should make our own CDs, right? And we even had a moment where we're like, should we do CDs? Is this going to stick around? We made cassettes. So then we decided, let's just bite the bullet. We'll make CDs, right? So we made CDs and we started selling them at our shows. And we had one of these really great experiences, which is like all the weirdos and the lefties and the, we had a great grassroots crowd of just weirdo art people that would come and see our band, and they started buying CDs like crazy. And of course, by the time we had sold 7,000 CDs from the stage, all of these labels called us back, and they were like, exactly what you would imagine. Like, well, we didn't say no. We just wanted you guys to, get your heels wet, or, like.
You needed to develop a little.
Yeah, we wanted to see you guys develop. See what So we, of course, because we were then, first off, like little snotty punks, and we were 20 something, and no, when you're 20 something, you don't think about the future in any way. So we were just like, I would say, like, in those days, 8 middle fingers would go up, like, between the four of us. So we just told those guys to take a hike, and we continued to do what we did. And luckily for us, Stephen Page's dad had a publishing company. So he took us on and distributed. Once we got to 7,000, he was like, I think I can help you guys out. I don't want to own any masters. I don't want to, he was just totally awesome and the real deal. And so he helped us take it to the next level and, just make more of them, get them into Sam the Record Man. And, when there were record stores like that. And then, it just blew up. And what we found in the experience was once the labels came back around and we unfortunately decided to dip our toe into that world, exactly what Blair was saying, like, they want to mold you. And I understand it. A lot of people in record labels, I think, are unsatisfied or sort of
frustrated musicians,
frustrated artists or whatever. Yeah. And so when they get a band that they feel like they've found or whatever, they want to do something. They want to change it in some way so that they have some kind of input. And the bands want to say, look, that's not really your kind of like stay in your lane. Like, you guys write the checks, deliver the big bags of money to our house later. But, don't tell us what to do with the songs and in our case, it really kind of, I think, went a long way into destroying the band because they had us out on the road like 300 days a year, 280 days a year we would be touring. And which was fine. We were totally into that, but it was like 280 days of touring Shakespeare in My Butt, which was the first record. And we had by then, moved on and had a whole second record written. And as I say, this original crowd that we had, they'd heard this record for a year and a half, 2 years. It was like, we want to move on, right? And they were like, no, we think there are people in Kelowna, BC who haven't heard this record yet. You got to get back out there. So we were grinding away at that. And the other catch, I had a laugh the other day because I saw this phone pan at the latest Rage Against the Machine show somewhere. And I said to my partner, Jill, I was like, how can we not get capitalism to topple when there's this many people raging against the machine, right? There's like just thousands and thousands of people. But when they came back around here, I saw these sort of bros with backward baseball caps and everything. And I was like, oh. And apparently the tickets were $288 a ticket or something.
Right. So excluding the very people who,
yeah, seemingly.
Yeah.
And we had the same experience, which we had a very cool crowd, a grassroots crowd. And then once we had some songs on the radio, suddenly we had all these aggressive dudes in the mosh pit because there was always a mosh pit going. And I would have to stop the show 3 times in a show and throw some guy out. It was always a guy, and it was always some sort of frat boy dude. And, and so it was sort of like, be careful what you wish for, because suddenly we were 5 times as popular and we could sell out bigger shows. But the people that were coming were a little less savory in our minds, and
a little less aligned with what you were like, what you were putting out, like they weren't your people really, that's troublesome. That happened to my band as well. Not Ricky Gervais, Eddie Izzard says, if you get Eddie Izzard, the comic, really very, very funny, but odd comedy, says, if you get what we do, great, we want you. If you don't get it, it's okay. You don't have to like us. We're not going to change anything. But in the position you were in, you didn't change anything except arguably maybe not moving on to that next record when you wanted to, like in terms of live shows. But it's the nature of the way the music is presented, particularly in communities. You said Kelowna, BC. In communities outside of the big centers in Canada, radio. You'd be on a radio station like Rock 95, and it would
the Moose.
Yeah, the Moose, exactly, the Frog, and you'd be playing in between, an old Kim Mitchell song and some other person Ted Nugent, and so there wouldn't be the context there for the audience. So they'd be like, it's a rock band, and I love this song by these guys, but they don't have the context of what you stood for and so forth.
Well, also, when we had this sort of high octane energy, I understand how there was maybe you could get the misunderstanding of the music was so energetic and so ferocious at times that I think that's all some people were feeding off of.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like I recognize that I sound like a totally petulant child complaining that we had a hit all of a sudden on the edge, because if I went outside of Toronto, it was like every other city we ever toured in, and we're like, I fucking wish we had a record label like the Edge in our town, because it's all the Moose and the Crane and the whatever,
Yeah.
And I feel, like when we pull out of our cottage at Campbellford, my daughter and I listen to something called Cool 100, which is like a new country station. And we listen to it because it's so incredibly funny how it's almost like a sketch comedy. It's like sketch comedy country music because it's not like real country music. It's like, it sounds a little bit like hip hop, and it's like, it's so pop produced.
Yeah.
And it's only a guy, like every 50 songs, there's a woman, and we go, whoa,
Wait.
what? There's a woman. That guy's voice is really high. And then every other guy sounds like this. You know, it's like, it's just like, and I met a guy who is a producer and a programmer there because he's a fan of mine.
Right.
And I started talking to him about, we listened to this station called Cool 100, and I have this history of putting my foot in it a little bit. And so I'm telling him this story, and I'm going, we just laugh and we have such a good time. And he goes, yeah, I produce a lot of the songs on Cool 100. And he goes, but I get what you mean. He goes, like, I've been trying to find a way to get your sort of countryyer songs or your rootsier songs on that station forever, but there's no way it would fly, because he says there's literally 3 things you can talk about.
Yeah.
Denim,
Yeah.
irresponsible drinking, and trucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can get all 3 in the same song,
Yeah.
it's the trifecta, yeah.
Yeah, it used to be jail and your dog and your mama, I guess. But yeah. But yeah, well, that's very interesting. I wonder if you would play, I have actually a request. It's a Lowest to the Low song. Rosie and Gray.
Sure.
I love that song.
Will do.
I hear it on the podcast all the time.
Oh, did I unmute? I'm not sure. Is that coming up? So this is an interesting situation because I wrote this song toward the end of a 7-year relationship I was having, and it's almost like, dude, if you could write those things in that song at that point, why did you break up with that person? You know. But anyway, I did. There's a long intro which I won't play because it's electric guitar and then harmonica does the same thing. But well, I want to take a streetcar downtown, read Henry Miller and wander around, we'll drink some gas from the tin. My UI check has just come in. Oh, where you been? Because well, everything's coming up rosy and gray. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow warms me today. And your smile is fine, and it's just like mine. I won't go away, 'cause everything is rosy and gray. You've been under my skin for more than 8 years. It's been 8 years of laughter and 8 years of tears. And I don't know what the future can hold or will do for me and you. But I'm a much better man for having known you. Oh, you know that's true, because well, everything's coming up rosy and gray. Yeah, the wind is cold and the smell of snow warms me today. Your smile is fine and it's just like mine, and it won't go away, 'cause everything is rosy and gray. Yeah, well, I've been told that there's a sucker born every day. But I want you, yeah, I want you. Maybe the one who doesn't realize there's 1,000 shades of gray. 'Cause I know that's true, yes I do, I know it's true, yeah, well I know it's true. But how about you? They're picking up trash and they're putting down roads. Stocks, the class struggle explodes. And I'll play this guitar just the best that I can. Yeah, well, maybe I'm not and maybe I am. Ah, who gives a damn, because well, everything is coming up rosy and gray. Yeah, the wind is cold with the smell of snow warms me today. And your smile is fine and it's just like mine, and I won't go away, 'cause everything is rosy and gray. I I've kissed you in Spain, but I've kissed you in places I better not name. And I've seen the sun go down on Sacré-Cœur, but I like it much better going down. Yeah, yeah, you know that's true, because everything is coming up rosy and gray. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow warms me today. Yeah, your smile is fine, it's just like mine, and it won't go away, 'cause everything is rosy. Everything is rosy. Everything is rosy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Wow, beautiful. I love
Any
that
record
song.
labels out there?
Yeah, that's right. So let's look at that song just for a moment. A couple of things. It's 1-4-5 for all the verses in the chorus. So it's like
Sure.
G, C, and D, right? Yeah. So it's G, C, and D. It's simple chords, although you're playing it with a D pedaling like always on the top. And but it's still the chord movement is very simple, because we were talking about chord movement before you got here, and the only time it deviates from that is or maybe you're playing the minor six as well, but anyway, but when you go to the bridge, and in the bridge it goes to B minor. And E minor, yeah. So the 2 and the 6, and that's it. That's all it is. So it's a total of 5 chords. And it's a beautiful song, and it's entertaining, and it's engaging, and it's emotional, and it does everything a song is supposed to do. And it's only 5 chords. So for those people who are hung up on you have to make your songs more complicated, you don't. You have to move me with your lyrics and your melody, which is what this song does. So, yeah.
In fact,
I love it.
I'm making a new low. It's the low record right now, and there's a lot of time in pre-production right now where guys are like, okay, what's that part too? Like, do we need to have that part? Like, I've gotten to a place where I'm putting more stuff in, and
okay.
And the bands complain. They're like, does it need that second bridge? Like,
Wow. Well, good. But that, I mean, maybe it might be
myself.
Might be good
feeling my way around.
to listen to that, or it might be good. It's hard to say. It's a judgment call for you to decide. Okay, yeah, but maybe this is the new me. It doesn't have to be the Relos Hello from the early '90s.
No, of course, yeah.
So interesting. What's the line about the class struggle explodes?
Yeah, picking up trash and they're putting down roads.
They're picking up trash and they're putting down roads. The next line.
They're broker in stocks. The class struggle explodes.
The class. Yeah. So he manages to put a line about the class struggle in the song, and so I think that's fantastic, because it's a love song. Now, what does Jill think about that song? This is something I struggle with.
So that's funny, because there was I don't know, was it Tommy Douglas Tuesday or something, and I finished the song, and she's like, "That song got you laid a lot, didn't it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but that's not why I wrote it."
That's right. But it was a happy benefit.
I think I did. That was as I say, like, I had been writing, big songs about South Africa and about this and that. And then I started to come across things like this, which is like, I can sing about the reality of my life, and I can put, class struggle information in different songs and everything. I can also do that, that last line where I'm like, kissed you in France, kissed you in Spain, kissed you in places I better not name. And it's like, I'm singing about cunnilingus, and it's like, I can do something funny, which is a little cheeky and a little winky, and make it fun. It doesn't all have to be, cough syrup. It can be.
Right. It doesn't have to be super sweet, but also when you sing about that, it also doesn't have to be dirty and offensive, or potentially
exactly,
offensive.
it's sort of playful.
It can be kind of cute and playful and so forth. And yeah, I really think it's a perfect mix of a bunch of things. I really love it.
And it's funny, because I'm going to tell you a slightly offensive story right now, but which is that another thing that it was I guess, now somebody might say, oh, it's virtue signaling or whatever. It's like, in a line like that where we kicked it around, should we do it? Is it stupid? Is it funny? Is it whatever? And one thing I did say is I think it sends it sends a message to women who are fans in our band too, that we know where that stuff is because we're progressive men and we care about that stuff, right?
That's true.
And so I have a friend who was in university at the time, she said she identified as gay then. She's now married to a man, but she identified as gay then. And she said Lois Low was the only, she said she used to send around mixtapes, and she said it was all Ani DeFranco and Madonna. It was like to all her gay female friends. Yeah. And she said, and the only male band that was ever on those tapes was Lois Low. Amazing. And so she said she got a bunch of her friends together, and they came down to see us at Lee's Palace. And she said when she was leaving, one of her other friends turned to her and said, "They're better than lesbians." And I said for a second, because we're this kind of idiot band, we thought that's got to be a T-shirt. But then we're like, but that we'd have to explain it every time we sold it. Like, we don't actually mean this. We just, it's something a friend of ours said, and it's funny.
It's funny, yeah, exactly. Better than lesbians.
But so things like that were important to me too. Is that we wanted to be an inclusive band. This band is for not just a band for a bunch of guys to come and see. It's like it's a band for everybody who's interested. Yeah. No matter how they lean or, and we all wanted to have little Easter eggs everywhere to just let people know.
We hope you've enjoyed this little taste of the SongStudio workshop in Toronto in July 2022. Stay tuned for more.